Coming to you live from the witness box in Belfast High Crown Court, or whatever it's called, it's This Week's Apocalypse. I am your co-host and star witness for the prosecution, Kevin Lenihan. With me, as always, is the defendant, John Ferris. John, we're going to nail you to the wall for this one.
Objection. Hearsay, maybe.
Sorry, but I'm afraid you're going to have to get your beaten down, sort of unlikely hero lawyer who has an unlikely desire for justice to object for you.
Yeah, that should be fine.
Yeah, well, unfortunately for you, that you don't have one of those. He's working for the prosecution, for which I am a witness. I
need to try and find like what kind of characteristics does a would you say a lawyer with a conscience?
A lawyer, yeah, yes, an underdog lawyer with a conscience, yeah. I'd say is what he is.
Yeah.
No, yes, I am the the star witness for the prosecution, so perhaps I could work some way to sort of undermine his whole entire case. I don't know. But I don't really know how to do that. I don't really know how to find his character flaws, the chinks in his armor, as it were.
Yeah.
Yes. So what we should do, John, how unlikely is this? Ooh, we should watch 3 movies about lawyers like that. Should we?
Do you think they've made 3 movies about lawyers?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if there's been 3 movies about lawyers, John. There's been a fucking million movies about lawyers. Like every goddamn John Grisham novel ever has been adapted into a movie because everybody loves that guy. Oh, so we have 3 here, luckily in the court library, because that's a thing that exists that has movies in it. Unfortunately, no My Cousin Vinny, which I hear is quite accurate to how trial law would actually go.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently it's something that like some law professors do, like cite it and tell their students to watch it to learn certain procedural things.
There is like on YouTube you can find a lot of these like lawyers react things, and some of them are quite good. You know, where like they look through some of these movies are included, the ones we'll look at, but and they're like, oh, that never happens. That's ridiculous. Yeah,
there's a guy I actually quite like. I got into him because he would review like copyright cases and stuff to do with like video games and stuff like that. Oh god, I can't remember. Lawful Masses, I think, is the name of his channel. Okay. He's actually very good. He would go through a lot of like cases, and whenever like websites will report on this letter that like EA sent or Activision or these people who did this, he'd go through the court papers, and be like, here's what this actually means, and and what he thinks about whether or not who has the case there and stuff like that. He's very, very interesting. But anyway, John, we're not allowed to talk to him or use him now. We have to use these films.
Yes.
So first up, from 1979, we have And Justice for All. I assume named for the Metallica album. Directed by Norman Jewison. It's a good album. The bass isn't very loud on it, but it's
sure it is.
It's got batteries. Shut up, you. One's great. Anyway, so the log line for that, starring Al Pacino, by the way.
Yes.
Log line for that: a lawyer is forced to defend a guilty judge while defending other innocent clients and trying to find punishment for the guilty and provide justice for the innocent.
Ooh.
I don't think that's a very well written log line.
No, it doesn't.
Innocent over and over again. And we'll get into the rest of that and how that maybe reflects the film in a minute. Okay, then we have from 1982 The Verdict, directed by Sidney Lumet, a big favourite of yours, John.
Sweet.
And I'd say maybe a big favourite of mine too.
Yeah.
So logline for that: an outcast alcoholic Boston lawyer sees the chance to salvage his career and self-respect by taking a medical malpractice case to trial rather than settling. And of course our lawyer in this case being Paul Newman.
Yep.
Ooh, cool.
Old Blue Eyes himself.
Sorry, what?
Old Blue Eyes.
Old Blue Eyes, indeed.
Well, it was one of his characteristic things.
Oh, yeah.
Piercing blue eyes.
Indeed. And then we have A Time to Kill from 1996, directed by someone I have a big soft spot for in a lot of cases, Joel Schumacher.
Yeah. I know what you mean, yeah. You're not going to go out and out and say, like, a favourite director of mine or something. It's like, nah, I have a soft spot for him.
I feel confident in saying that Sidney Lumet is sort of a master of his craft, but there's something about some Joel Schumacher films that I don't know. But anyway, Time to Kill, with Matthew McConaughey being our star lawyer here. In Canton, Mississippi, a fearless young lawyer and his assistant defend a black man accused of murdering 2 white men who raped his 10-year-old daughter, inciting violent retribution and revenge from the Ku Klux Klan. Ugh. Yeah. So,
I mean, of all these, like, prologue things or synopsises, I think that one would interest me the most. That one was actually well written.
The least spoiler heavy as well, because it's a big spoiler in one of those ones that I just read. Now that I think of it, but sure, whatever. Say we forget about all that crap. Go through our jurisprudence. I don't actually know what that means, and watch these movies. All right, John. Well, how's your defense looking here? Where's your lawyer? I notice he doesn't seem to have shown up.
Yeah, I'm kind of representing myself at this stage, which
so, like, I hear that's a really, really, really bad idea, John.
Yeah, especially when you have no idea what you're doing, like me.
Yeah. I hear that even if you are, in fact, a qualified solicitor yourself, you shouldn't defend yourself.
Yeah.
That's a piece of advice.
What is that? So, that phrase, the man who defends himself has a fool for a client?
A fool for a client, yes. That's exactly it, yes.
Well, I'm about to prove that right.
Yeah, if only you had Al Pacino on your side. There's a man with charisma who can deliver a great speech.
Yeah,
probably to a jury. You know. So, John, that being the case, then, what did you think of And Justice for All from 1979?
This one's a lot to unpack here because I'm gonna just say that I really like this movie, but there's a lot of caveats with it.
Yeah.
The music is terrible.
Yeah.
The music is very,
awful.
very, very badly suited for it.
It might be great for a completely different film.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We should qualify that the music itself isn't terrible. It just does not suit what this movie. Well, even saying that, what this movie's going for, it doesn't really kind of find itself. It doesn't find the right track until maybe a third of the way through, would you say is fair?
There's a point where some sinister music comes in and it really sets the tone.
Then it goes, this is what the movie's about.
And then you go, oh, right, okay, yeah. But even after that point, I feel like it's tonally still sort of all over the place.
Yeah, it still loses it now and then. I still like... I think it is... it's a very good kind of critique on the legal system in general, and I think a lot of those things are added more to make a point than anything. Like his friend who kind of loses his mind, and
his judge friend who he's like
his partner actually. I think I know the partner. Sorry, when he kind of loses his mind.
Jeffrey Tambor's character.
Yes.
Yeah.
How weird is it to see him young?
It was weird to see him with her, but I think maybe it was a wig the whole time. I'm not sure. It was a wig for the whole film.
Could have been. Let's just go with that because it's too weird to think of him with her. But when like it starts bringing him in later and stuff, and it kind of it's almost like a distraction from what is actually happening. Because once the main kind of body of the story comes in of like that judge who is a piece of shit, and I mean, you kind of know it. It's not really revealed until much later. Spoilers, I suppose, but it's kind of obvious that he did it or he's not.
It's literally in the log line I read, but it isn't confirmed in the film until like 20 minutes from the end.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the same time, you're right in that, you know, just the guy in general, you're just kind of like, ugh.
Yeah.
You know, he's just awful. I guess that sort of seems to me to be what the whole film is about, what is wrong with the system.
Yeah.
And the people who have power in the system.
Yeah.
They play it they weirdly play it for laughs. I think way too much of the time they're playing it for laughs. I think you could cut a solid half hour out of this film and it would be way better.
Yeah. I think
take out all the jokes because there's full of jokes that are not funny. It's not very. There's parts where it's really. It almost seems like it's written by. I don't know if there were like different screenwriters, but there are two different screenwriters here on this, and it feels like it's two different screenwriters who aren't working together.
Yeah.
It feels like they wrote scenes separately and they got slapped together. It's very, very strange because there's points where you're like thinking, oh, is this a comedy?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's other points where you're thinking, this is a really serious drama. And you're just like, oh, this is like a really powerful, well-written scene. And then immediately in the next scene, you're like, this feels like... You know what it feels like? It feels like somebody wanted to do a courtroom drama in the style of like Stripes, like the Bill Murray, Harold Ramis film that's like a takeoff on The Army.
Yeah.
It feels kind of like that, and it's trying to be serious at the same time. Sort of also like MASH as well, where that was something that was funny, but then serious things would happen. I just don't think... I think the tonal shifts are too broad.
I don't think the director was competent enough to meld the two. Like, the two can be melded together fairly well. Like, it reminded me, like, very much of those things you're talking about, but also more the book that Scrubs was kind of based on, that House of God, I think it's called, yeah. Where it's not... Like, there are things kind of almost played for laugh, or it is a bit more, like, satirical in a way. Yeah. Like, it doesn't feel like the real world, like, proper. And I think that's what they were trying to go for with Injustice for All the Times, but it didn't quite stick the landing. And as you say, like, the real serious parts, at sometimes it does work. Like, you know, the tonal shifts kind of did work, but the majority of the time it doesn't. It kind of does feel a wee bit like jarring, and like literally and Pacino's performance in it is fantastic. And
I will say that if he wasn't in this, it may have been forgotten.
Yeah.
Because there's a few people are actually giving like pretty good performances. Like I think Jeffrey Tambor is actually doing a really good job in it.
Oh yeah.
All his stuff's actually pretty good. Like, because he's kind of an asshole, and you know, but then I was gonna say he learns his lesson, but he's more traumatized by his lesson than anything else. So it's not really the same thing. And
I kind of love how they like everyone else is treating him as like, you know, what's his problem, and what his problem is he managed to free someone who ended up killing more people.
Yeah, who killed 2 children is the thing. And
he feels guilty about it, but no one can understand this. Like, everyone's like...
Yeah, everyone's of the opinion of just like, well, you won the case.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah. Because, see, the thing is, and like, this is something actually... I guess this is something that actually you'll know about. There was that video game, Judgment, that came out a few years ago that was about a lawyer who... Same thing happens. That's the character that you play in that game. The same thing happens to him. He got someone off, and then like a week after the guy gets off, he gets done for murdering his girlfriend. And then that guy is then disgraced and ejected from the profession, essentially. And he doesn't want to be in the profession anymore because he's ashamed, but he wouldn't be anyway because he's been... But in this system that we're talking about here, it's like, you won the case, move on.
Yeah.
And it's like, but I didn't find the truth. You know, it wasn't the right thing to do.
Yeah.
To win is shouldn't necessarily be the goal. That seems to be sort of the point of the movie, is that it's supposed to be... I guess that's the point, the title, and justice for all.
Exactly.
Isn't it supposed to be justice for all and not for the few? Mm-hmm. So yeah, like, because there's comedy scenes in this movie, and then there's some very, very serious scenes that, to be honest, I found actually really moving and upsetting.
Yeah.
One in particular, I found really, really tough.
Would this perhaps be when Al Pacino confronts the lawyer that was meant to cover for him while he was... Because the whole movie is just Al Pacino's character. His life is kind of crumbling around him. Like, all his clients who are innocent as well. Like, because he tries to only like represent people who he believes in, and that he doesn't like to be underhanded or like represent anyone who is guilty, and it's all going wrong, and his partner goes a bit crazy out of guilt, and just even the stuff that he knows through his newly acquired girlfriend of like they're investigating all the lawyers, but like he even makes a point, and I like those scenes where like he's going like you aren't going for the root of the problem, and she's like, what do you mean? We're trying our best. Like, you know, they're not even looking at the judges, and yet you have one here who like sits outside his window every day, like eating his lunch, like, you know.
I thought that was a great thing they did, like, 'cause they don't address it when it's happening. They address it way later. Like, 'cause I was watching, I was thinking like seeing him sitting on his window ledge like 5 floors up having his lunch, like hanging his feet over the side, and just thinking, is this supposed to be normal? Are they trying to be like kooky with this? But then he points out later, even though that guy's his friend, he points out that like he's suicidal, and it's crazy that he's allowed to be a judge.
But no one investigates these people. All the judges, like the judge that he has to represent, and he's kind of forced to in a way, like is a piece of shit. And you know, no one investigates these ones. But yet they're quite happy to like say his partner, who again, as we keep saying, feels guilty for acquitting a murderer. Like they're going, oh, we'll have to watch him. And you're going, why? Because he has a conscience, you fucking pieces of shit. And I like that scene where like they're having the hearing with Al Pacino, and he goes, do we need the microphones? Like, we're all sitting very close, and their answers, this is a hearing, sir. It's like that's so an appropriate answer. It's like, what?
It's like something out of Doctor Strangelove or something, which is a kind of a tone that I think I got a lot in the movie.
I wish it had stuck with that tone.
Because
that worked for it. The more kind of like almost borderline slapstick stuff was when it went too far the other direction. I don't think there was enough of a balance. And in fact, to go back to Pacino's performance, I think that's the anchor that kind of still holds your attention. Because I think he's great throughout it, and he is. Especially, you know, the more dramatic scenes. Of course, Pacino can do that very well. You know, those performances, and like, I mean, all these courtroom cases, the final speech has to be a big moment. It's such an important moment.
A belter.
And the one in this is fantastic.
It is. It's phenomenal.
I mean, the one in this might. I mean, not to get ahead of ourselves, but it could be my favorite out of these three. I'm not sure, but
we'll see.
Unfortunately, the rest of the movie is a bit too erratic tonally.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
That helicopter scene, what was that about?
Yeah, that was absolute. I mean, I think the whole point of the helicopter scene seemed to be to sort of hammer home the idea that the judge is suicidal. And it's what hammers it home, I think, for Al Pacino's character in the film, that he's definitely is actually suicidal, and he should have never went up with him. But it felt like something from a 1970s TV movie. It was really poorly shot, and it was like the music was absolutely awful. And that point, that was one of the worst bits for music and tone. Just being like, I was watching going, what am I watching right now? Is this still the same film? It felt like it was a cut-in from like Dallas or something. I don't know. And I was like, what's going on? And yeah, I don't know. And like, this is like Norman Jewison who made this movie, and he's made some really belter films. He's made other films that aren't so belter. But he
very diplomatic way of putting it.
Yeah, he made In the Heat of the Night, which is so good. Sidney Poitier is brilliant film. But then he also did Bogus with Gerard Depardieu. So, you know, swings and roundabouts.
It is his career's kind of as all over the place as Justice
as
for
this
All.
Film. Yeah, this film's very emblematic of that, because the really dramatic scenes are sometimes they're great. But then the silly scenes are way too silly, and it's just ludicrous. And some people, I think Jeffrey Tambor's great in this. I think Al Pacino's great in this.
Yeah.
I think Jack Warden is actually really good as the crazy judge.
Oh yeah.
Who is suicidal? It's like it is hard. I'm gonna go. I don't know if I liked it, but I liked bits of it, and that seems reductive. But
yeah, I liked enough of it. I thought once,
yeah,
like the start is very difficult to get through. I find that because it doesn't even know what the main thread is at this point, and it's kind of weaving in, and then as we keep mentioning, to these different kind of tones. I found once it landed into the kind of the main story, it was kind of distracting, but I could still get on board with it. Mainly, as I said, because Al Pacino just was this anchor throughout, where no matter how ridiculous it got, you could always kind of almost look at it as like a unreliable narrator type thing, where he's the only normal person in this world, it seems.
And he's losing it because everything around him is so chaotic, and he's trying to do the right thing in a system that's constantly berating him for it, and infuriating and frustrating him. So
and it's kind of like I can kind of appreciate that they wanted to make a lot of it kind of farcical, because the whole system, like much of the point of this movie is that the legal system is a farce, and it's ridiculous. Like even in his speech, he says that when like the statement to the jury that he makes, he's saying that it doesn't work because it's not about justice. The defense wants to win and the prosecution wants to win. There's no the prosecution doesn't turn around and go, actually my guy's actually probably guilty. That doesn't happen, and it's just obviously he says it a lot better, but it's one of these. It's an odd one. It is an odd one. I could see how people could bounce off it.
Yeah, I might have. See, if it wasn't for Al Pacino, this is the kind of film that I probably would bounce off. I'd probably be like, this seems daft.
Yeah.
Before I even got to the point where it becomes interesting.
Yeah.
Because I think that does eventually happen, but I think it happens a bit late in the game for it to be like, an attention holder.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, because Al Pacino's performance, especially in the more dramatic scenes, is phenomenal.
Yeah.
He's so goddamn good, but you knew that. You know that before you go in almost with Al Pacino.
Well,
at least Al Pacino's going to be good in this.
It's an
probably.
easy thing to forget that modern day Al Pacino is just kind of given up in a way. We're back in the 70s. He was a force to be reckoned with. He was like The Godfather, Scarface. Scarface was 80s, wasn't it?
So good in that.
Ones we've looked at before, like Dog Day Afternoon and Serpico. He's incredible.
Yeah, he's probably. We haven't looked at Serpico yet.
I just watched that many times that I thought we did.
Okay, well, no, it hasn't come up yet. We haven't been confronted with undercover cops yet, but who knows? Maybe soon. Ooh. A tale of things to come. I would say that this film, much like the career of the director, is friggin'. Sometimes it's brilliant, and a lot of the time, it's not.
Very high highs and very low lows.
Yeah, fucking all over the place, John. It's fucking all over the place. Well, they've let in the oiks and the hoi polloi finally into the courtroom for whatever you call that, justice for seen by public. I don't remember what the words are. Open court. There's some Latin bollocks probably. Anyway, there's still no judge or lawyers yet. So I don't know, John. We might just have to do this on our own when this gets to the end here.
Might be fine.
Now, have you had a drink today?
Well, I've had coffee.
That'll do, John. Did you
Yeah.
Irish it up a little, did you?
I mean, yeah, I mean, you have to, don't you?
Yeah. Yes,
we
you do.
we lose our passports if we don't we?
They do, unless we're drinking whiskey in the morning, apparently. We don't get...
You're not a rampant alcoholic. What?
Absolutely, John. Do you think that'll make you a better lawyer or a worse lawyer for yourself?
I think it makes you a worse lawyer up until your conscience kind of goes, here, maybe you should get your life in order.
Yeah, but you don't stop drinking, though.
Well, you can't.
Well, how did that work out for Paul Newman in the verdict? He did get... He is a guy... He does seem like a proper alcoholic.
Yeah.
He does exhibit many of the symptoms. He certainly, at the beginning, he definitely has the shakes.
Yeah, and he's drinking very early in the morning. He's drinking before he goes into court, and he's got all the wee telltale things of like he knows he has a drinking problem because he has the eye drops and stuff to take away the redness of his eyes.
He has a lot of sort of preparation, sort of equipment
to
get through being an alcoholic in the mornings.
Exactly, and to like so no one can like really question him too much. But yeah, speaking of Paul Newman, I think his performance in this is fucking incredible.
Yeah, I thought he was great. I kept thinking that every time he spoke or it showed you like a close-up of his face, I could not help thinking he put me in mind of a late-in-life Rutger Hauer. He sounded... There was something about the whole tone and his demeanour and even the way he like carried himself in the film that made me think of Rutger Hauer all the time, and I was like... Oh, Rutger Hauer, he would have made a really good grumpy alcoholic lawyer in a movie, I'll bet. But yeah, he's fucking fantastic in this film.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a problem for us actually when we get to the end of this. Of, like, who's the best? Yeah, but he's fucking brilliant.
I think this movie as well. It's more of a character study in many ways than it is like a court like. You know, and it's fine because Sidney Lumet already made the best court movie by making 12 Angry Men, so
indeed
he's allowed to do a character study one instead.
Yeah, he covered the sort of jurors' deliberation room well. Yeah, and now he's like, well, I could do like an analysis of the courtroom, or I could just do a character study of this guy trying to get through it all. Yeah, and I think he does a really, really, really good job. Yeah, with that, I'm just gonna straight up say I really thoroughly loved this film.
Well, it's a Sidney Lumet movie, so you know that I loved it as well.
yeah, I thought it was fantastic. So, John, yes, in fact, I was going to ask you what you thought of it. But
in fact, when we were coming up with, because as we alluded to in our intro, there's so many courtroom and like lawyer based dramas and things like that and thrillers that our cup runneth over for ones to pick here, and some of these picks were just kind of like. I don't know. It was just I wanted to see Justice for All because I'd seen it when I was younger, but this one I was adamant we had to watch The Verdict because I love this movie, and I just think it's a really it's these kind of like lawyer with a conscience type movies always have to have like the odds are always having to be stacked against them to an almost ludicrous degree. Like in this one, he's not only is he against this very successful lawyer who's used to all these trials and has underhanded means as well. But he's also against the church, which has all the money in the world to put against him. Even his clients and his friend at different points in the movie are like, just settle. This is you're not going to win. But I just love this. I love that moment when you see. When he goes in to take the photos that he's going to use as a bargaining chip to make more money, and you see him he lingers that bit longer each time he takes a photo, and it's just his conscience is like, what the fuck are you doing? Yeah. What are you doing? This is the line that you can't cross.
That was a really good breakdown scene. Like I saw it happen. You see it happen in front of you over the course of like a minute and a half. You're just like, you just know. You're just like, oh no,
yep,
oh no, he's grown a conscience.
And then just like it hammers it home with like it has because it's Polaroid photos. It just the camera just statically looks at those Polaroids as they develop and they become clear. As it's just like finally for him, something becomes clear, and I just love it. And then that whole scene where he's talking to the diocese about, they're like, oh, we've got you, we'll settle for this amount of money, and it's when he looks at it and he goes, how did you come up with this amount? And they're, oh, it seemed fair, and it's like, to me it seems like 3 divides into this number very easily. Yeah. And just all these like wee small things, it just doesn't feel right, and it's just like, oh, this is so horrible, and like no one wants to take responsibility for putting this woman in a coma, and I love how everything unfolds. It's a very slow paced movie, but I think it deserves to be, and I think it's important that it is.
It needs to be. It needs to take its time.
Yeah.
Just like he does. He has to take his time because he's past it in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that also seems to be sort of what the movie's about. As like he's already had a career up to this point.
Yeah.
And sort of trashed it by trying to do, as we discovered, sort of trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
It's almost like he learned his lesson not to.
Well, he got blamed. What was it? Because Jack Warden
tampering, I think, is the thing he was accused of.
Yeah. At
some point that disgraced him.
But you find out that it wasn't actually him. It was he got it pinned on him. Yeah. And he didn't get disbarred, so it never went that far. Yeah. But yeah, he just kind of found solace in the drink, as you do. He's like there's a lot of parallels between Paul Newman's character in this and like your detective noir type, who's just like given up and just goes to the bottle for answers.
Right down to his office, I think.
Yeah.
It's a very like film noir location.
Yeah.
For like a Sam Spade to be hanging out in with his papers everywhere. The place is trashed. It sucks.
Yeah.
He doesn't look after it at all. He pretends he has an assistant when he doesn't.
That's right.
It's so stupid, but yeah, it's kind of funny. It's pathetic, but it's also done in such a way that you can sort of laugh along with it and be like, that is actually funny, but also this guy sucks to a certain degree.
He does, and I like that they don't shy away. He's not, a perfect protagonist. He's not like about like we were talking about the Harryhausen things last time, and the heroes in those are like, I am perfect in every way, and
friggin' Jack Wayne standing there with his hands on his hips, saying his lines loudly to the sky with a big dumb smile on his face.
This guy is anything but that. Frank Galvin is an alcoholic. He's kind of a bit of a shit in lots of ways. I mean, whenever they get like an expert witness, and turns out that he's a black man, and there's a point where you're like, you're not sure if it's Frank Galvin's own kind of prejudices, or it's just the fact that he knows because they're in Boston, and it's an Irish, Irish
Catholic.
So they're going to be very prejudiced against this black man speaking. You don't know if it's his own prejudice or it's just him thinking logically of like, oh, this isn't going to be good for us, kind of thing. But no, it's a fantastic movie.
It's fucking brilliant, is what it is, John. And it has a great summation scene as well.
Yes.
At the end. In fact, I think all these movies have great summation scenes, which, as you were saying before, it's sort of, a lot of the times, it's when it comes to courtroom dramas, it's the linchpin of the movie. I mean, look at A Few Good Men. That's the bit.
That's the bit everyone remembers.
The bits people remember, the bits people recount. Oh, it's a great movie. But you can't really explain it to someone because that's a huge spoiler. If you say, here's what happens in the scene, you can't do that. But it's the thing that sticks with you after the movie's over, usually. When you're like, oh, wow, that was really serious and that really affected me, because that's the whole point of even that in a courtroom. That's the whole point of that. It's supposed to be the last sort of, you're summing up everything that's happened and you're trying to like drive it home.
And in this movie, it seems like the last Hail Mary, because even when things are starting to, like when he's starting to like turn the tide a little, things fall apart again, because again, like the judge is, and again, this is in all these. Well, sorry, it's actually not in Injustice for All, really, but it's a common trope in these movies that the judge is very, very biased in a lot of these movies, and in this, he is. I just want to strangle that man. He's such a fucking asshole.
He's terrible. Like, he's terrible.
He's a fucking terrible judge, and he should not be anywhere near. Like, I love those scenes as well, where like you have the prosecution and the defense lawyers, which is in this case Frank, is one of them, and the judge meeting, and Frank runs late, and he's just treated like shit, and it's always subtle things like. He doesn't get offered to hang his coat in the same wardrobe as them, and
I thought that was really that was really strange at the end, because you don't get what's happening there for a bit, because he arrives late, and whenever they're leaving, the defense attorney goes over to the judge's wardrobe, and I was like, what's he doing? I was like, he's getting his own coat out of there.
And
that's weird.
It's so subtly done, and it works so well. Like, even he pours them tea, but he like immediately pours James Mason his tea, and then he just like sits there and like almost trying to not almost, he is trying to convince Frank Galvin to settle. And he's going, "This is ridiculous. You haven't been in court in years," and it's like, and it's just so insidious and so horrible, and I mean. In a way, it does what and Justice for All's trying to do for like a good hour or so of its runtime. It does in like a matter of minutes, in a very subtle and albeit very different way. But and of course, we have Sidney Lumet, so like all the technical aspects of filmmaking are there. The direction and the cinematography are great, and all that goes with filmmaking.
I mean, like that. Something that really struck me was the way in which I don't want to say anything about about what happens in the scene necessarily, but the way the sort of final statement, sort of summation scene happens in the court, is this static wide shot, and it's all one take, and it makes it feel so much more intense. It's really extremely powerful. It's not playing music, it's not doing anything, it's dead silence, and it's just Paul Newman awkwardly delivering a great speech.
I can't
really
express
well.
I can't express enough just how much of a fucking powerhouse he is in this. Like, his performance is fucking fantastic.
He's so good. He's so good. It reminded me a lot of Network in a lot of ways, Mad Prophet, little bit, but not in the, but just like that sort of, you're looking at someone and you're like, that guy might actually, he seems calm, but he might explode,
and
at any moment.
It kind of almost goes the opposite way. Like it's almost, his summation is kind of, he's almost defeated. It is like it's like a plea to like go just. Can you see through all the fucking biases and all the, and I love even I mean it's a bit of a spoiler, but there's a point in the movie where he could have got a mistrial because James Mason and his whole team are being underhanded as fuck and are like, even though they have all the advantages, which just proves how they know that their client is wrong.
They have all the advantages and they still have to fight dirty.
Like it's just, it's very well done. You're talking about like that long shot there, that all one shot. While Paul Newman's giving the summation, there's actually another scene where where his girlfriend in it comes in at one point when they're trying to research, and she comes, gives people coffee, and then she's like leaves.
The sandwiches down.
Yeah. And she's kind of, there's more going on in that scene. There's a lot of like, she's got shit and that I don't want to get into right now, but there's a lot going on with the characters, and it's all one shot of her walking in and out, and it's done incredibly well. And it's one of those, again, it's one of those scenes that so much is told with the camera work and where it lingers and where it moves, and it's just that kind of filmmaking that I love, that you could just like the camera, the actual direction is another character almost.
Yeah, it's brilliant. There's a great scene actually with her. It's Charlotte Rampling plays her, and she is very good.
Fantastic.
There's one scene in particular where he goes to her, and she just tears him apart.
Yeah.
She's just like, here's what you're like right now.
Yeah.
This is you. And like she's basically saying, look, I'm not your fucking mum. You know? But it's so good, and it's just, I thought that to me was one of the most important scenes in the film.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Was when she just takes him apart.
Yeah.
For what he's doing with his self-pity and his I don't wanna, you know, and that's basically what she says to him. It's just like, you're like a fucking child.
Yeah.
Like a fucking child who wants someone else to tell you it's okay to fucking give up, basically, and I'll fix it for you. And like, it's and like, that almost summed up like the whole film for me.
Yeah.
And it happens about halfway through, and I was like, this is what this film's about. It's not about the case. It's about him.
Yep.
It's about this washed up guy who's having a post-midlife crisis.
It's about him, like, it's about his retribution. It's like, you know, it's to stop him, as he says, like, you know, if he takes that settlement, he'll just be a rich ambulance chaser. Yeah, and I love that term as well. And it shows you him doing that shit, and it's so underhanded at the start.
It's horrible.
Yeah, like, so for the turnaround, like, you know that it has to be very bad for this. This guy goes to funerals to try and drum up business, like an easy business, like he always settles, and all these things are. You know, you find this out very early, just like what kind of a character he is. So yeah, just as you're saying, like when she goes through him like that, not only is it needed, but it's the turning point almost in the movie. Like he's about to give up. It's him going back to his old ways, and she's like, I'm not taking it. This isn't my fucking cross to bear, you fucker.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's basically like, I just met you. Don't try and dump all this crap on me. Deal with it yourself. Yeah. Basically. And it's beautifully done. It's wonderful.
It is.
And it sums up the whole film for me in a way that is just like, I was just like, everyone in this scene is also brilliant. Like, they're both fucking brilliant when he has a fucking panic attack and runs into the bathroom after she fucking shouts at him. And that's fucking brilliant as well. Like, him just alone in the bathroom freaking out is fantastic. Again, Paul Newman, you can't really overstate it.
No.
How good he is in this goddamn film.
But, and again,
he's so good.
Everyone is. There's not a bad performance in this movie. Yeah. Everyone is giving it their all, and it's fantastic, and the dialogue's very good. You know, there's no kind of awkward, stilted lines as far as I can remember. Anyway, you know, it all flows very well. Like, people seem like they're having conversations, as opposed to like there's certain scenes in Injustice for All, which is like, okay, this is a bit or something, or it almost feels like an SNL bit.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's like a sketch someone wrote.
Yeah,
of like, you're in a courtroom, go. You're 3 lawyers in a bathroom, go. It's literally a scene in Injustice for All, 3 lawyers in a bathroom.
Despite it, like, you know, the strong performances in Injustice for All, you know, that sometimes the dialogue or I think it's the dialogue and the direction lets them down, where every element in the verdict is so strong that I don't know. I think you'd have to be a very I don't know, strange person not to kind of be enamored with it, or not to feel something for like Frank Galvin's journey or retribution.
I mean, I could see you disliking him.
Oh yeah,
and maybe. I know that sometimes for a lot of people having like an unlikable protagonist can be off-putting. I generally don't find that off-putting. I generally like films that have really unlikable protagonists at their center, you know. It's like, as long as it's like, if they're able to keep the rest of the film compelling, I think that's way more interesting than having like we were saying earlier, like those Harryhausen movies that had all like Jason and the Argonauts, like Jason standing there going, we're gonna be fine, don't worry everybody, We're heroes.
Yeah. Frank Galvin is a much more entertaining watch than Sinbad the Sailor.
True that, yes. Yes. Frank Galvin is a way more interesting character than Sinbad. Well, John, I think your corn smuggling days are finally at an end.
Oh, was this about the corn smuggling?
Yeah, this is about the corn smuggling thing. What did you think it was about?
Oh, nothing.
Maybe you shouldn't say, actually.
Yeah.
There are curious ears all around.
Ooh, ears, corn.
Oh, no, I didn't mean to do that. I feel really bad about that, so I'm just going to charge straight in here and not do any more segue stuff because that's embarrassing, John. Accidentally. So, time to kill, John. I'm going to read the wee log line here. In Kenton, Mississippi.
Kenton.
A fearless young Lar and his assistant defend a black man accused of murdering 2 white men who raped his 10-year-old daughter, inciting violent retribution and revenge from the Ku Klux Klan, and boy does it. John, what did you think of Joel Schumacher's A Time to Kill from 1996?
Well, I really like this movie.
Yeah.
But,
yes.
I was watching it because I just anytime I watch this movie previous to this, I've always just like accepted. Yeah, that's fucking great, and it's very well made and very well done. But watching it with like a kind of more critical eye of like, you know, there's some real weird problems with this movie where like it has this whole like we solve racism kind of end, which doesn't. It feels kind of cheap, I think, for especially like it starts off very well, but as well for a movie that's very centered on like kind of racial prejudice and things like that. It very like it doesn't really delve too much into the black characters in the movie. Like, can you name one of Carl Lee Haley's family members? Even you know, it's
no.
like things like that, which I kind of never really kind of struck me before, but watching it this time was like, yeah, like it's a bit weird that, and even Samuel L. Jackson himself, who plays Carl Lee Haley, and is fucking great in this, even he's not in it much. I always remember him being in it more, and it's like a few key scenes, which are the standout scenes in it.
Yeah.
And the weird way they kind of treat, like, don't get me wrong, I don't know probably as much as I should about the NAACP, but the way they kind of treat them in this is, you know, almost insidious in a way as well.
They're almost antagonistic in it. Like they're the enemy of him in a way.
They did so much good that it's a bit of a strange stance to take. You know, they're just as bad, or kind of, well, not that extreme, I suppose, but
no, not nearly.
Not nearly. No,
it's not
I mean,
that,
you're dealing with the KKK. But like I found those things to be very strange. You know, like you know, just for reference, like in real life, the NAACP literally, you know, stopped segregation and things like that. You know those, when you watch old movies and you see those little signs that say like whites only above the fucking watering the
water fountains.
The water fountains. Yeah, they stopped shit like that, which, you know, they're the good guys. But I don't know too much. Maybe there was like elements of like, you know, they involved themselves when they shouldn't have, but I don't know. I don't know enough about it. I just find it.
That's a question for John Grisham, I think.
Yeah,
to be like, hey, why did you put this in? Is this a thing that happened or something, or what? I don't know. But I understand what you mean, though. It seems a bit much to like try and create this other antagonist. Like, the movie is full of antagonists. I mean, you've got, well, first of all, you've got the hotshot fucking district attorney, who's a piece of crap. You've got the Ku Klux Klan, of all people. Like, I mean, if you don't need to also have this antagonistic force in the form of the NAACP, who do help people and have done a lot of good stuff. I don't know. I don't know if maybe because like John Grisham, I think, was a lawyer, and all of his stuff is about that kind of stuff, and he has experience in that world. I don't know if maybe they were guilty of interference like that.
Yeah.
They almost use them to kind of try and show the sort of dedication of Matthew McConaughey's character, and also maybe like Carly Haley's loyalty, maybe.
Yeah.
More than anything, but I mean, there are other ways to do that that don't involve demonizing an organization that has done a hell of a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
They also kind of drag the local preacher through the mud a bit with that too.
That's right, yeah. Because he was pocketing the money or something like that.
Yeah, they offered it to him. They basically offered him a cut to talk to people and get them on side, sort of thing, which is kind of messed up. But I think on the whole, this is a really good film. I mean, I kind of like a lot of John Grisham's adaptations of his books, I remember there's a lot of them I haven't seen in a long time, but I remember liking The Client.
Yeah.
I don't remember. No, it's one Susan Sarandon in it. I think Tommy Lee Jones, is the antagonistic lawyer in that. I remember it being very good, and like he's done a whole lot of like great books. Like, I mean, he's written tons of bestsellers, and they are actually very well written and everything like that. But yeah, that's a bit of a weird thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's actually quite well written. I think Matthew McConaughey's great in it.
Yeah.
He's really laying on the southern drawl real thick. Although I don't know if that's just the way he talks.
I think all the performances are well, most of them. I mean,
yeah.
Actually, it's not even the performances. I don't know why Ashley Judd's character's even in it. Really, she does nothing.
Yeah.
She's just there to be like. There's a weird bit with her being kind of. She seems to be on his side to represent Carly Haley, and then all of a sudden she's like, "Why are you doing this?" and then leaves the film. That's about it.
Yeah, she literally leaves the film on a plane, goes away, and you're like, So yeah, I think there's a bit of I guess sort of what we talked about in Heat, which she was in which she was a prop.
Yeah, right enough. Oh god.
She's being used also as kind of a prop in this, just to show he's a family man.
Yeah.
And I think they exist so that he can have something in his life outside of himself that can be threatened.
Yeah.
That he has to defend and has to overcome or whatever. I think that's pretty much the reason why he has a family at all, as far as the story goes. And yeah, they are underwritten, I would say. The family, it's nothing to do with Ashley Judd.
No.
It's the fact that she doesn't have a lot to work with.
Yeah.
She does grand with what she's got, but yeah, she's just not there. Yeah. And then we have Sandra Bullock coming in. She's not fully a prop, but it is kind of also sort of used.
She almost feels like she's gonna be something else up until the moment where, like she gets kind of caught by by some of the antagonists, and then you're like, really? Like, what was the point?
It's not as bad as Heat was in that regard. So I'm not gonna lay it too thick for that, but it's still a bit of a problem. But on the whole, I think the dialogue's very good. I think it is very nicely shot. I think it's very compelling. I think it's extremely compelling subject matter.
Oh, yeah.
It makes its case very well outside of the case in the film. I mean, like the case for, like, is this a crime?
Yeah.
Was it wrong for him to do what he did? And is it justifiable? And clearly, like, there's a contingent of most of the characters in the film feel like he was right to do what he did.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the movie itself is very...
Oh, it's very much saying, he should have done that.
And in fairness, I agree with it. Like, I could see, I could see people having a problem with that in the sense that... And I mean, there's going to be people who have a problem with it because they're just hateful racist bastards. But I could see people who are just level-headed, let's say, who would have a problem with
Yeah.
it, because he does kill them in cold blood, in a sense. You know, he's calculating and stuff, and like their defense.
He doesn't immediately go and kill them. He is sort of like, he goes and ensconces himself in a little sort of room overnight.
Yeah.
In the court,
and he even warns Matthew McConaughey's character that he's going to do it and stuff. Like, I still think, he's well within it. I would have done it.
Yeah, like there is a rational, ethical discussion to be had, and it does happen in the film. A lot of the film is them trying to puzzle out, you know, like the prosecution is very much, this is against the law and the letter of the law, and he murdered these two men, and therefore
like
he should go to the gas chamber.
Like, I'm wondering, would it have been better to be more kind of centered with the message, you know, kind of take a middle stance on it? But then I don't know. It is an entertaining movie, and it's that the whole KKK part of it is sickening, and especially these days, where if we had done this, like, maybe, I don't know,
2 or 3 years ago,
not even 2 or 3 years ago,
whenever all that stuff was happening in Charlottesville,
like,
where it was literally the KKK out just beating up black people and protesting, and
you know, part of me would have kind of said it seems a wee bit almost, they almost seem cartoonishly evil in a sense, and then you kind of go, oh wait, these people are cartoon, like, they can't even see the hypocrisy in what they say. They can't even see how idiotic they are. Like, these people exist, and it's a bit sad and a bit odd that. It's very sad, actually, that, you know, that these people can and do exist.
Because like you're trained. Well, we were in a lot of ways. Whenever we were like in school or whatever, having to like look at like two sides of an argument, and usually the answer was find the middle ground.
Yeah.
But the problem is that when you're confronted with something like the Ku Klux Klan, and you go, you know, you see like, oh, well, this is this person's opinion of it, and this is this person's opinion of it. Usually, you know, you look at this film and you go, but that must be exaggerated because they're like, you know, Hollywood or whatever. Yeah. But then again, you see them on TV and you go, oh, they're actually like that. They're actually extremely, for the most part, extremely ignorant people. Yep. Who are being manipulated by a few nasty, selfish people.
Self-serving, usually.
Like really self-serving narcissists, usually. Yeah, I mean, it's the same all over the world. When you get any extremist group is like that. Yeah. They're actually generally quite stupid people for the most part. Yep. With a couple of intelligent psychopaths running the whole thing, manipulating them all. So I think the representation of the Klan in this is probably pretty goddamn bang on. I think Kiefer Sutherland plays it extremely well.
Too well, in fact, where you're like, oh, jeez, how did your career survive this kind of thing?
Yeah, he's so good at being a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And like all his horrible mates in it too. They're all just like, they're all so thick and angry, and they play it so well. Yeah. And I think Kiefer Sutherland does a really good job of that. I think he's a pretty good actor. Yeah. Generally. I like him. I mean, again, he's a Joel Schumacher regular. Yeah. I mean, he was in The Lost Boys, in which he's fucking brilliant in The Lost Boys. Although a lot of people are fucking brilliant in The Lost Boys. That is a movie for hamming it up hard. Yeah. And I love how ham and serious The Lost Boys takes itself all at once. Yeah. Whereas this is so different from, this is nothing like The Lost Boys at all. So it's nice high contrast to his previous Joel Schumacher's other work. And let's not talk about the Batman films that he did because they're sickeningly awful. But this is one of the high points, I think, of Joel Schumacher's film career.
Yeah, I would say it's probably my favorite one of his movies. Maybe. I think maybe, again, I know I just mentioned it, but I think The Lost Boys is fucking brilliant. I love The Lost Boys. Even like in the pantheon of vampire movies in general, I think it's pretty high up there. Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah. But so this film's great. The performances are brilliant. It's very well written for the most part. The characters are mostly fleshed out, but there's a few very two-dimensional people here
There's
and
a
there.
lot of them. It's almost like there's almost too many of them. But yeah, they do well. Like I like just a wee connection here where I think Kevin Spacey's DA Rufus or whatever you call him is very much. I don't know if it is. Maybe it isn't, but seems very much inspired by the James Mason's character in The Verdict. I found parallels in them very strong.
Yeah.
Where even how they're introduced as them like just running through this case like almost point by point, going right. This is what you do. You control the papers. You do this. You do that. And
he has this huge team of people.
Yeah.
And then, because they did that in The Verdict, they did that really well.
Yeah.
Where they were like, they had this scene in a boardroom with a huge team of people and a man serving them drinks.
Yeah.
And it was palatial, and then it cuts to Paul Newman and his mate in the library with their takeaway coffee, stomping about in like the dim sort of light through the window, like peering at these books upon books upon books and complaining and smoking.
And they have very much a scene like that in A Time to Kill as well, where you see, he has his team, he has all this, he has all the resources, and just again, as we mentioned, it's the trope that these movies, and I love it, like where it shows you what they're stacked against. They're in the deep south. It's mainly white, and again another connection. The two movies show and I really like this, the process of them picking a jury to certain extents, and I'd like that in these movies, but very few of them do it.
The horrible logic they have to engage in to eliminate people based on certain factors. Like, I mean, it's all about like the whole thing in The Time to Kill is he wants to change a venue because the population, the likelihood that there won't be any black people on the jury is so high where they currently are.
Yeah.
That he wants to move somewhere else because that would mean it's not a fair trial. Mm-hmm. And he's right. Like, he knows that's probably true is the problem. It's really messed up. It's the same. Then you see, like, in The Verdict, them going through the same process and him, like, awkwardly asking people questions to find out, stuff about them. But then he's got the sort of the deck stacked against him because he's in Boston.
Yeah.
And it's a case against a church.
Yeah.
And that's bad, So, yeah. It is really interesting to see the process. And, like, again, as I say, John Grisham, a man who knows a lot about the law.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, it's interesting to see, like, the process and the roadblocks that you slam into as you're trying to take a case to trial and all the ways in which things can be manipulated and moved against you.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to see that. Although I did hear that, like, apparently My Cousin Vinny is of all of the movies about this kind of thing is the most accurate, which is ridiculous.
It kind of is
about it. More so than, say, A Time to Kill, because I have heard that, again, if you want to talk about summation speeches, this is one of the classic summation speeches that gets referenced all the time, and it is very well written and all that, but I have heard that he would never have been able to be allowed to give that speech in a real court.
Yeah.
Like, a speech like that would have been interrupted and he would have been probably held in contempt by the judge if he had made a speech like that.
It's also, I don't know, for me, that final speech, it's very well written, but the end part of it, and just going to go into spoiler because it's so famous, like, if you haven't seen it, you've heard it somewhere, but in which he goes, now imagine that girl's white. I don't know if maybe I'm just really naive or something, but it just seems that you would have to lack a phenomenal amount of empathy to not care that or to care about the girl's race after all the things that he lists, and nothing is going to change a racist mind about that. They're not going to suddenly go, oh fuck yeah, if she was white that would be terrible, and I don't know, for me it's almost, it's this whole, like, this speech solves racism in a way. Like, the end part after that is all too, like, fluffy and great, and, like, the very end they go to a barbecue, and, like, I don't know. For me, I mean, to bring it back to, don't know, a movie and book that I think we both like, To Kill a Mockingbird. Now this movie's very reminiscent of that. Extremely.
Yeah.
White lawyer representing a black client. And spoiler for that movie, spoiler for To Kill a Mockingbird, but in that, it doesn't go his way.
No.
And
it's grim.
It's more of an...
It's grim.
It's more of an indictment of the problem, and like that you can't, or not that you can't, but it's not as easy as that to win these cases. And I don't know, I can't see, especially when you see all the things that are stacked against them in this movie. Like the judge, of course, is very biased against our
His
heroes.
name is literally Noose.
Yeah, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's wild that his name is Noose.
Yeah.
Omar Noose.
Omar Noose
is his name, which is, I don't know if John Grisham was thinking, this'll be clever when he was writing that character. I don't know if that's clever.
Yeah.
It's blunt.
Yeah.
I'll say that. It's fucking blunt. It gets the point across, which, I don't know, sometimes brevity is, as Shakespeare would say, is the soul of wit.
Yeah.
Sometimes being, just like, here's a shorthand for what this guy's all about.
Yeah.
It's in his name. Fine. I'm actually okay with things like that, like nominative determinism, I think that's called.
Yeah. I mean,
like
even
when someone called Mr. Bunn becomes a baker, stuff like that, it's so Judge Noose becomes a hanging judge.
You even see him like hanging around with Kevin Spacey outside of the courtroom and things like that. He's completely biased, and
you see them walking down the street together and stuff when they're in the diner and shit, and you're just like, that's fucked.
So like that, I don't know, it does feel like the end sequence is almost like a dream sequence of, in a perfect world this is what would have happened kind of thing, where it doesn't feel quite real.
That might be an interesting way to read this film, of like after a certain point, maybe in the last 15 minutes, it's all in his head.
Yeah.
This is how I'd like it to go, but maybe it didn't go that way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But on the whole, I think this film is pretty successful.
Oh, yeah.
I think
I know I've been ripping on it a good bit, but it's, it has its problems, but I think it's very well done, very well presented, and yes, it does touch on all these heavy topics. I don't think it explores them fully, but I don't think it's the movie to do that in a sense as well. And in fact, another movie that I watched along with these, well, just kind of randomly with them, that is also a court drama, is a movie called Marshall, which is kind of the thing that got me thinking about the problem with the way they portray the NAACP in A Time to Kill, because Marshall is about Thurgood Marshall, who eventually became the first African American Supreme Court justice, and it's apparently one of his career defining cases, and where he's defending a black guy. He's not even allowed to speak in it and things like that, and he's a member of the NAACP, and it's a very good movie. It's to Chadwick Boseman. Okay. He plays Marshall, and it just hammers home like Chadwick was taken from us way too young, and he's so good in it. He's a brilliant actor, but it's a very good one. Obviously, it's been Hollywood upped a good bit, but it is a real case. It's a white girl claims this black guy raped her and things like that. But it's a very good one. I'd recommend it as well if you like A Time to Kill, because it's very similar kind of themes, and the problems of that time, which again, unfortunately, are still prevalent.
Yeah, I would also say, to that token, also, yes, To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah.
Very good recommendation if you like this film. And it is one of the best books I've ever read. Mm-hmm. So maybe read the book and then watch the film, because the film's really good too.
Yep.
I love the film. Gregory Peck is fucking amazing in that, as Atticus Finch, the world's greatest dad. He's just, I don't know, there's just something about his performance in that movie where I'm just like, I love Atticus so much. He's such a good character. Don't read the weird prequel, to Set a Watchman thing that was published. without
heard it
Harper
wasn't
Lee's
great.
permission. That's not good.
Mm-hmm.
So don't read that, but do read To Kill a Mockingbird if you're interested in something with a lot of the same themes as A Time to Kill. It's brilliant, and I'm going to say that A Time to Kill's really brilliant too.
Yeah.
I think it's great. Well done, Joel. Well done, Joel. Well, John, they've rested. Or whatever. What is it they do? The persecution.
They've arrested?
Yes, they've arrested. They've arrested your lawyer, John. He was outside having a drunken fight in the alleyway, so you're definitely going to have to defend yourself against this guy.
That's fine. I'm actually confident now because I'm thinking I'm going to counter sue you now for willingly and wantonly using a bad pun about corn.
But I'm trying to help. I know I'm a witness for the prosecution against you.
Yeah.
But
well, you're just a witness. Yeah, I'm suing you anyway.
I've been all right. Well, you know what, John? I'm gonna sue you.
Ooh, let's all sue everyone.
Let's just sue everyone. Isn't that what they say? It's a sue everyone culture. It's not really. That's a sort of a myth put about by corporations to engender sort of sympathy so that they can more effectively lobby the Congress and Senate to change tort laws in their favor. But anyway, John.
They're on
Anyway, John. As far as our analysis goes of you defeating this goddamn lawyer who's grown a goddamn conscience, goddamn it.
It's the last thing you need a lawyer to do, isn't it?
That was my impassioned court speech there. You got to say goddamn it a lot and slam your fist.
Yeah.
I'm not slamming my fist because audio.
So now we can get into the meat of these movies.
We can get into the meaty parts. Yes,
the final statements.
The meaty succulent parts in the spoilers section. So, yeah. So, John, which of these movies did you think had the best closing statement?
The best closing statement, I think, is actually On Justice for All.
I was going to say that's an interesting one because technically it's his opening statement.
Oh yeah,
but it becomes his closing statement.
I even love when they're dragging him off. He goes, wait! I finished my opening statement.
Yeah, it's great. I think that scene is fucking incredible.
Yeah,
that's the point where I was like, oh, I actually think this movie might be great.
Yeah,
again,
it's a shame because I wish the rest of it was as polished and as good as that final scene. I mean, because everything he's saying and the whole build up to it, because you can see why he's finally cracked at this stage because his grandfather who brought him up is slowly being consumed by the dementia. His partner is going a wee bit sideways. He's just losing faith in the whole system. All his clients, all the innocent clients that he has are dead.
Yeah. They've all been killed by the system.
Yeah.
As well. That's the thing that is really fucked up.
And yet he's going to get he can get this lawyer off. The judge, sorry. He can get he could probably win that case. Yeah. And then he knows he's guilty. That horrible scene, that horrible moment where the judge looks at this girl who's been beaten up and he goes, she's still quite pretty. I'd have another go or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And it's just you disgusting piece of filth.
Yeah.
And so you understand why he just goes, fuck it, being a lawyer's not worth it.
Yeah, that's it. He's just well, if I'm going to it's worth getting disbarred.
Yeah.
For this because it's not worth going through with it.
Yeah.
It's one of those I would never live with myself because, that's the thing about his character. Yeah, he's he hasn't recently grown a conscience. He hasn't recently come to some revelation. He's always been that guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that he's now been forced into a situation which for another lawyer who maybe didn't have that sort of drive would be a dream scenario.
Oh, yeah.
Because he gets to get off this judge and his notoriety and he'll be they say to him, you'll be famous.
Yeah.
And he's and also we're blackmailing you and you will be disbarred if you don't.
Yeah.
So come on. And like it's, oh, you're like, what's he gonna do? What's he gonna do? And you kind of know he's gonna. You're just like, well, he has to tank this, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Is he just gonna intentionally lose, or what's he gonna do? And like you think, because that opening statement starts, and you think, all right, well, this is gonna be a whole trial thing now. Yeah. And then about halfway through the statement, you suddenly realize, oh no, this is over already. Yeah. This is the end. This is the end of the film now, because look what's happening.
Yep.
And it's brilliant. And then it becomes really, like, as you say, it becomes really acutely obvious when they're literally dragging him out while he's still trying to make his statement.
I love that, like, because he started. It's like the prosecution is not going to get that man today. Because I ain't gonna get him. It's like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. It's like, oh, they want to win, because he's even criticizing them, because he's like, they're not here because they're here. They want to do the right thing. They want to win.
Yeah, it's all. Oh, let's make a deal. What deal will we do, Frank, and stuff like this? Yeah, he's shouting at him. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's so well done, and as we mentioned, like Al Pacino's performance is
fucking incredible.
The linchpin in this movie that holds all the disparate parts that want to drift apart together.
Yeah, it's for better or worse. This movie is constantly trying to spin apart. It's constantly whirling around, trying to destroy itself, and he's just and then he just comes in and does something, and you go, oh no, he's pulled it all back together.
He's the only constant in it. He's the only which again may have been the desired effect from Norman Jewison, but honestly, like it does make for a bit of a haphazard watching experience.
Yeah, it doesn't feel engaging.
And even to hammer that point home is after all that brilliant scene in the courtroom, then you have a scene where he slumps down on the steps, sees his partner who lifts the wig up to say hello, and then a freeze frame, which is just like
that undercuts the whole thing. Yeah,
it's like, is this an episode of Police Squad all of a sudden?
It's the kind of thing Police Squad took the piss out of.
Exactly.
At the end of every episode, where they would all freeze, but they would all just be standing still. Yeah, it's that. And the music comes, the bad music comes back in. Big ripping saxophones and stuff happening as soon as the freeze frame happens. And you're like, that was so powerful, and I was sort of sitting there in recovery mode, and like you just want it to fade to black, but it doesn't.
Yeah,
it like the way the verdict ends was perfect.
Yeah,
where you're almost waiting for the next scene.
Yeah,
and it ends, and you're like, fuck.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Beautiful. Do you know the verdict actually? The original script didn't have a verdict being given. You never found out what the verdict was. And it was actually Sidney Lumet said to David Mamet was the screenplay writer. He said, no, we need closure for it. We need something. And he wanted to show like kind of that this was the rehabilitation almost of this character that he needed. Because at the end, you have the girlfriend character, forget her name now. You have her Laura Fisher.
I was going to say Charlotte Rampling.
Oh well, yeah, the actress. Yes. She's the one hammered out of her face, ringing him, and he's drinking coffee.
See, that's the point. That's the point where you're like, you can write that ending in your head.
Yeah.
Did he answer the phone or not?
Yeah.
You know, that's that. And again, I think that goes to your point about it not being about the trial, about it being about him.
Yeah.
It's a character study. It's not like A Time to Kill is sort of engages in character study stuff here and there. But it's mainly about how the trial is going to go. Whereas the verdict is about how he handles it and how he changes and how his attitude changes and how he... Even though you'd expect him to be grown up, but he's not.
Yeah.
How he grows up and matures throughout the movie.
Yeah.
And like you wonder, like, does he answer the phone, and what does that mean?
Yeah.
And what would he have said if he didn't answer the phone? And what does it mean if he doesn't answer the
I
phone?
always love an
that's what I
ambiguous
was thinking
ending.
about. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about when the credits were rolling. I wasn't thinking about, oh yeah, he won the case.
Yeah.
I was thinking about,
What now?
but what does he do now?
Yeah.
What does he do with his life now? You know, what's
Like
next?
he can't go back to chasing ambulances anymore. Like, you know, he
Yeah.
can't be. He can't do that
Yeah.
because this is the reawakening of his soul, almost. You know?
Yeah.
And does he go back with her? Does you know? Is that accepting that phone call? Is that almost
Yeah.
like?
I mean, he did punch her full in the face.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing that he did at one point because she so horribly betrayed him.
Yeah, and it's like as horrible as that is, it's like
yeah,
like you completely see, you know, you don't have to like there's no justification for it, but at the same time, you understand exactly what motivated him to do it, and it's well within his character, and it's just
yeah, it's a bit shocking when it happens, but it's not necessarily surprising that he did it. Yeah, because that's kind of the guy that he is at that point,
and especially like the amount of the amount of time and everything they've put into that case, and it's all about getting justice for someone who doesn't have a voice for themselves and isn't even going to benefit from it.
Yeah,
so to speak. You know, her family will, and there is like a whole thing with them where they start because there's a bit of malpractice on his side of things where he doesn't go to his client to say, oh, they've offered this. He just takes it upon himself to go, we're not taking it.
Yeah, it seems to me that the whole point of that is he's able to do that because technically they're not his clients.
Yeah, she is.
It's the girl who is in a coma, has brain damage on a ventilator, being kept barely alive by it, who is essentially dead, is his client.
Yeah.
You know, so he is able, he has the freedom to make those decisions because she can't.
Yeah.
They've given him power of attorney, essentially.
And I love that, you know, people start getting at him, like people who, you know, like the family and stuff like that, who clearly want him to win but think he's doing the wrong thing. It's like, this is the first time in how many years that he's doing the right thing, and everyone is shitting on him for it. And it's like,
now that he's found his conscience, they're like, no, this is the, like his mate even says to him, like, his mate told him to do that first, but then once he does it, he's like, you told me to do this, and he's like, yeah, but not this time though, not now. Like, he's literally, the whole thing is like, his mate's literally thrown this case his way.
Yeah.
Because it's easy money. It's potentially life changing. You can do your usual and settle out of court, and you will make a crazy amount of money out of this, and you'll be fine, and you won't have to work anymore. And
that relationship, I think, is really well defined in just a few simple interactions where you can tell that he's a long-time friend. They're both older, like, you know, so you can tell they've been friends for a long time, but you can tell that his friend is sick of his shit, and it's like he understands. And when he's telling Laura about, you know, why he hit the bottle and all that stuff, you know, you can see that he at some point he was sympathetic and still is to a certain degree, but at some stage he's just like, this is the last time I do this for you. Because you can't even get your fucking shit together to meet up with a client now. Yeah. And then the turnaround whenever Frank goes to him and goes, I want to bring it to trial. And of course his friend's right there beside him. And it's just like, that's great. Like, loads of like, you know, you don't need to over-explain things or tell too much about characters, but you can see how close they are as friends because of this. And I love that. Like, you know, it's... So many things are done right in this movie that it does make you look at other movies and go, what the fuck are you playing at?
How do you not do this? But you know, I guess writing can be hard.
Definitely. Yes.
Yeah, and you can always look back at it and think like, oh, maybe I could have done that better.
True.
But yeah, it's real good. I think as far as like the ending sort of summation goes, it is just, that one is just, I love, as I was saying before, it's the sort of the static wide shot, and it's all one take, and again, like you were saying before, he's like defeated, and he's like impassioned and he's so invested in it, and he's just being genuine with the jury, and it's so powerful because of that, and it goes on, and it's just like you feel it again because of it's that one wide shot. It's almost like you're someone who's sitting there, watching him do it, and it's so effective. It's another victory for Sidney Lumet and his team. You know, of
course.
Look, he did it. He did it again. He pulled another 12 angry men out of his arse. Fucking hell. How did you manage that? Look at what's happening right now, and you're so invested. You feel like, much like a 12 angry men, you feel like you're in the room with him.
And even though, like, you could,
powerful.
Even though you could probably predict the outcome of the movie, you know, I still feel like, because this is, you know, I've seen this movie a few times now, you know, I still have that feeling of dread for some reason, even though it's like, I know that they judge in his favour, you know, I know what the verdict is in it, but it's still, again, it all comes down to it being more of a character study, and you do, I think, empathize a lot with him, and you're right there with him, and even, like, I love when he gets that nurse on. He finally gets that nurse, finds her, gets her on the stand, and you think, this is it. They have them nailed up until no, everything that she said will be stricken from the record. Yeah, because it's a photocopy painful. Or something. It's a Xerox of the. It's
even though it clearly proves what she's saying, and everything is so like, just this proves this guy's guilty. But it's not why she could only, because she's a surprise witness. She's not allowed to, her testimony can't be considered against these things. So just pretend like it didn't happen.
Yeah, I love the when it closes in on the doctor's face when she gets called to the stand. You just like go, oh mate, you're so guilty, and you know you're fucked right now. He's just like, uh-oh.
Yeah, as soon as she enters the room, he's like, oh no. It's great. It's so good. But again, and then you've got, of course, which we already kind of addressed, the ending speech to A Time to Kill is
graphic and powerful.
It's extremely graphic, and it's really well delivered, and it is painful and harrowing, and really, again, kind of, it's the fact that he's like, you know, close your eyes.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's the point where people say, oh, you can't do that. But I think for the sake of the movie and for the sake of the drama, I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I would say all these movies have these problems where if we were lawyers or judges or whatever, we could pick them apart and go, that never happens. No, you can't do that, because, you know, even things like surprise witnesses and stuff like that, it's very, I don't think there's only like a certain time it's allowed to happen, and even then it's not really a surprise witness, because everything that you present has to be like filed away and presented beforehand, so that
has to be sure. That's called discovery. Which I learned from my cousin Vinny. Marissa Tomei says it to him because he doesn't know it's a thing, and then he's talking about how great it is that the other lawyer shared all his files with him, and she's like, "It's called discovery, you moron. He's supposed to do that." But all that aside, the speech at the end of Time to Kill is incredible. It's powerful. It's moving. It is just, it's brutal, I think is the word for it. It's just brutal.
Yeah.
And it makes the point that, again, what the movie is talking about. That's, again, the sort of the ends of these movies do kind of sum up what the films are about in a lot of ways. The end of Injustice for All is all about how the system is broken, and someone doing the right thing will be defeated. But he still has to do the right thing. And, you know, that probably got the case thrown out or whatever. You know, then in the verdict, it's all about him and what he's been through and how he's changed. And that's what his speech is all about at the end. And very much when it comes to A Time to Kill, it's all about the right and wrong of crimes of passion, basically. Of whether or not what Carly Haley did was right or wrong. That is essentially what the film is all about, and like who is wrong, and you know, is judging him harshly for it racist or not.
Yeah.
You know, like if someone else had done it, like, man, that's the whole point of, you know, like, imagine the girl was white. He's trying to make the point that, like, if this was someone else on this witness stand, how would you, a prejudiced American Southerner, feel about that?
Yeah.
Really? You know, and like it's a very real prejudice, and they do, again, we saw it in Charlottesville. These people exist. They're real, they are loud, and they are angry.
Yeah.
And so you might have thought it was cartoonish at one point, but you can just go to YouTube and look that up.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
If you can sit through it, and you'll see these people are very real. And that's exactly how they behave.
There's actually a quote from, I brought up Thurgood Marshall earlier, I brought up the film Marshall, and there's a quote from The Actual Man, which I think kind of sums up a bit of what you're saying there very well, where he said, "You do what you think is right, and let the law catch up," which is like, you know,
oh man,
which is a great quote, and A Time to Kill. Yeah, I think it fits in there with that. You know,
it does.
The law may not kind of cover, like there's a lot of nuance in people's actions and things like that. You know, and situations that the law isn't able to cover or really recognize, and it's not flawless, as Injustice for All has shown. Shows
which it does effectively show, despite its massive flaws that film does have. But I feel like we're edging towards an agreement that probably The Verdict is the best one of these films, isn't it?
I think every time I've brought up a Lumet film, I always I could sit and talk about The Verdict for a good, like at least another hour, I think. Now there's wee scenes that are popping into my head now. Like I'm going, oh yeah, that bit where he's talking to him. Oh. Yeah,
because A Time to Kill is great.
Or that disgusting bit where he puts a raw egg into his beer and then downs it.
Oh. I've seen them do that. They do that in The Wire.
Yeah.
It's like the first season of The Wire. That's like the hangover cure.
Yeah.
It's like half a glass of beer with a raw egg cracked into it, and you just neck it. I bet that wakes you up.
Oh yeah.
But I bet you're alert after that.
Right up until I throw up on the curb.
Yeah, so I think The Verdict, I think maybe I just appreciate a character study more than a procedural study.
Yeah, especially there's that many procedurals, like even the TV shows and stuff, to know that you almost become numb to them in a way. But yeah, as you say, like a character study is always interesting. If the character is good, you know, it's that's it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But A Time to Kill is still brilliant, and Al Pacino is great in Injustice for All.
I like Injustice for All. It has its problems, but I'll go as far as to say I like it.
I again, as I say, I think there's a solid half hour of this movie that
you're right
should be cut, and it would make it. It might be one of those movies that would be looked at in the same sort of realm as Dog Day Afternoon or something in Al Pacino's back catalogue as being great, but there's so many just goofy TV movie farcical comedy bits that just don't work.
It's so close to greatness, it's frustrating. It's probably more off-putting because at least if it was just bad, you go, well, it's whatever.
Yeah, but because the fact that the central performance is marvelous, and some of the sub stories in it are extremely compelling. Like his defendants, all the stuff to do with each of the people that he's representing are powerful and moving and very, very well done by everybody. That the rest of the film really lets it down and drags it back in a way that I think that is a shame. Because there were parts of this movie where I was absolutely enthralled and invested and incredibly, like, those bits I was just decimated by certain parts of this film.
Yeah.
And then I was immediately confronted with japey friggin' clown scenes and being like, I'm not okay with now having to sit through this clownery right after something so powerful. There's no come down. It's just here we go, and it's the TV friggin'. It's like friggin' suddenly you're watching a friggin' episode of Airwolf or something. And you're like, what the fuck is going on?
I would love actually someone to go in and like edit down this movie to the good bits and maybe change the music if they could, because especially like that scene where he berates the guy who he entrusted to.
Yeah, that's the most powerful scene in the film. I think that is the part where where that
guy's like, "Oh, you can appeal," and he's like, "We can't appeal. He's dead."
Dead. He doesn't even. He just screams, "He's dead," and the fucking bottom falls out of the universe, and that's it. And he's just leaning against the wall and having a full fucking breakdown.
Yeah.
And the guy's just like, "Oh no."
Yeah.
Actions have consequences. It turns out.
Especially like it shows you him just like having dinner with someone, like it's kind of, oh shit, I'm late for this.
Like, oh shit, I forgot. I need to get to court real quick. Yeah.
And again, like things like that would show you, like it's just someone's complacency that cost that guy his life, and it's the good. But as we said earlier, the very high highs, but unfortunately very low lows.
Very low lows. Yeah, it almost makes me annoyed at it because it could be brilliant.
Yeah.
It could be brilliant because at times it is, but it just I
mentioned to my wife, if Sidney Lumet was the director for Injustice for All, I think it would have been an absolute. It would have rivaled 12 Angry Men and things like that.
Yeah. He would have cut out all that weird crap and he would have used better music and it would have been, something else. But as it stands, it's fine.
Yeah.
Norman Jewison, he made it in the heat of the night and that's brilliant. So props to you, Norman, for that. Good stuff. Sorry that this movie's half of a disaster. But yeah, so The Verdict's probably the best one. A Time to Kill is great, and I think generally the lead performances in that are all kind of like all the performances in that are brilliant, and it is for the most part very well written.
Yeah,
and it is extremely emotionally compelling at times. But again, I think we've got to go with The Verdict just because. Man, that's such a good character study of him. So yeah, but John, so. The Verdict, we've chosen The Verdict, that's grand. Which of these lawyers do you feel like you would have the best chance against defending yourself in your corn smuggling case?
Well, I think, I don't know. Maybe Al Pacino's, because I'm not guilty, am I?
He might. I don't know, John.
He might be all right. I'm not guilty. I'm definitely not guilty.
Well, that's what they all say, though. That's what they all say.
That's what that judge said, and he definitely fucking was guilty.
Yeah, I know, yeah. So, John, I don't know. I mean...
I mean, if it was a case of, don't know, if I was able to get Frank Galvin before he had his
Frank
epiphany.
Galvin like a year before this?
Just pay the man off, and there you go.
Just pay him off?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's terrible. But you know what? If you've got the funds, well...
Oh, that's
John, where'd you get
problem.
all this money? Where'd you get all this money to pay him off?
I definitely did not steal it.
You did not steal it. You definitely didn't get it from smuggling corn,
and
right?
And you can quote me on that. I definitely didn't steal it. It's on the record
this is all being taken down by the old. I was going to say ledgerman, but that's not the name of the stenographer. The court stenographer is taking all this down, so this is all being entered into the record, my son.
Nice.
Ooh, right. So I guess as a witness for the prosecution, I'll say, thank Christ I don't have to stand up in court because you're just gonna settle.
Yeah.
For how many dollars are you gonna offer?
I don't know. I've got a tenner in my wallet. So
is it American?
Oh no.
That's probably worth more then. So
yeah.
Sweet,
Yay!
Awesome. Quid's in. I think. Speaking for the prosecution, I think they'll accept.
Yeah.
John. So well done. A tenner gets you justice, it turns out. Thank you, Mr. Galvin, for being too drunk to show up today. Awesome. So great. Well done, John. You're a free man.
I don't want to think of him like that anymore.
Tough.
I prefer the rehabilitated man.
No, sorry. No, the one at the beginning of the movie, that's who you got. So we are on Twitter. We are at 7 Day Apocalypse. That is at numeral 7, the apocalypse, you can email us on filmcast@thisweeksapocalypse.com. That's filmcast@thisweeksapocalypse.com. We also have a YouTube channel, which we've been putting up silly playthroughs on, and also all of these in audio form.
Yeah,
so
whenever I remember.
So, John, I rest my case.
Oh.
Do you?
Could you not rest it on top of me?
Oh, no. We're never going to get out of here. You have to rest your case.
Sorry.
Otherwise, we can't leave.
I rest my case then.
Ray, and hold on, I need a gavel. All I've got's a pack of tissues. I don't have a gavel. I'm the judge now, apparently. So, dismissed. What a horrible sound.